There we go. We are live. I'm going to see if I can bring up Facebook to see if it actually shows up on Facebook too. Let's see. I can do it this way. We'll just say hello to everybody. Everybody can introduce themselves. We'll start with Mark.
Good evening. I'm Mark Everglade, and I'm a cyberpunk author traditionally published of 4 novels, and launching a new book today, Killswitch, Overkill, through Rock Hill Publishing. James is the CEO of Rock Hill Publishing and has been running the company now for about how long, James?
Somewhere around 12, 13 years, something like that. So it's been a while. We've been doing this for quite some time. Mark is one of our original authors.
And it's unusual for a small publisher to be in business for over a decade. So many self-publishers come and go, and so it really supports the indie authors, and it supports a sort of independent, approach to things and an independent perspective on literature and the arts that you don't always get from big publishing houses. We are joined today as well by Mickey Mickelson, Creative Edge Publicity, and our editor-in-chief, Athena Paris. And in addition, hi Athena, how's it going?
Well, thank you. And you? I'm struggling here on this side with blank screens, so
Athena is in South Africa, and it's midnight, so she has no tech support there. But
yeah.
So she's on vocally through the magic of telephones.
Yes.
And we're also joined by yes, please go ahead, Athena.
Sorry, there's a delay, so I don't hear. What did you say, Mark?
Oh, please go ahead if you had anything.
Yes, I'm the editor, the one who gets to read the good stuff and the bad stuff. The good stuff, I praise it, and the bad stuff, I try to make it nicer. So, yeah, that's my job. I have to say, it's exceptionally well, and he creates visuals. He does really well. I love his work and his themes and storytelling. And like he said, he does a good job of getting it ready for us, because I hardly ever have to do much work, which I find such a pleasure to read his work. So, and that is my job, to actually enjoy the writer's work.
Thank you so much, Athena. And yeah, it means a lot, especially with you being such a recognized romance author as well. And we are also joined by our special guest, Anna Masakat, who needs no introduction when it comes to cyberpunk literature. She is the author of over 30 books and 15 audiobooks in the genre, mostly in space punk or space opera, cyberpunk, in that kind of genre. She hails from Poland. She spent most of her life in Germany, where she attended film school, and now lives on the East Coast of the US. She is a full-time cyberpunk author, and you'll hear her mentioned in the same sentence as, say, Pat Cadigan, Melissa Scott, Ren Warren, Rachel Beck, as representing the sort of modern drive in dystopian literature to have better representation of women, both as characters and as authors. So I would enjoy, please join me in welcoming my special guest.
Thank you, Mark, for inviting me to be here today. I'm really excited to join you for your big special day. Book releases are always great. That's what we love. And I'm really happy to be here. And thank you for the nice introduction. I mean, I sound really cool the way you introduced me. I mean, I don't have much more to add to that. Yes, I write mostly cyberpunk books. So it's either like more classic cyberpunk or cyberpunk in space. But it usually has a lot of, cyborgs and that kind of stuff. And it's I think Mark's books are a little bit more serious than mine. Mine have more action, and you can see here, like that's the main character of Behind Blue Eyes, and she has those fancy blades in her arms and so on. So that's what I do. But yeah, it's Mark's big day today, so I'm gonna be quiet.
Not at all. We will. We'll discuss. I guess my new novel a little bit, and then after that, we'll have some giveaways, and then I have a few questions for you, Anna, and we'll talk about your work Behind Blue Eyes and your other series in a little bit here. So stay tuned.
Yes. As you brought up the cover of Mark's new book, I like to mention, or I like to ask Mark. Yep, there you go. Mark, who did that cover? Because I know who did your other covers.
I did this one. I did this one. Usually I put forth a cover and my son says, no, Dad, let me do this. I know Photoshop. You don't know anything about this. And this one actually passed everybody's inspection. They're like, okay, you got it this time. But I did use a little bit of help from AI. I criticize AI in my books as being this horror, but when it comes to designing covers, yeah, I use it a little bit. You won't find me use it for actual text though. The text comes straight from the heart.
Yes. I use a little AI too for cover and stuff like that, for a little art, because I can't draw 2 stick figures. So
don't we all? It looks great, Mark. It really looks really nice. So the image is really nice, and the entire design great. Yeah. So why not? I mean, if it works, right?
Every reviewer we sent the book to, the first thing they said was, wow, I have to read this book. The cover looks incredible. And
awesome.
Like reputable people, like really like reputable. So yeah.
Sure. That's awesome. Thank you, Mickey.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Anna, you have Behind Blue Eyes, and that's not your first series though. What was your first series called?
So that was my first series in English. Before that, I published a couple of books in Germany. I was traditionally published there. And then after moving to the US, I started writing in English, and I went indie. And Behind Blue Eyes is like my main series. Book 6 will be out soon. And I have a couple of other series also. But Behind Blue Eyes is probably like my love child.
Oh, okay. So what is Behind Blue Eyes about? Because there's a very famous song by The Who, Behind Blue Eyes.
Yeah.
And
yes, and it's actually inspired by the song, because the song text Behind Blue Eyes applies to multiple characters in the book. And also, as you can see in the picture here, the main characters, they're killer cyborgs, and they have those neon blue eyes, and they are the bad guys. So the entire series is basically told from the perspective of the bad guys.
Ooh,
and they are really scary. They have those neon blue eyes and those blades in their arms, and if they come after you, then you're dead. That's how it is. So that's basically what it is about. And well, of course, it's a little more, but it's mostly about those characters, those cyborgs, and how they fight for independence and their freedom, because they're owned by the Olympus conglomerate, which it's a mega corporation because it's cyberpunk, so of course. And so they're owned by them, and they want to break free and gain their freedom. And book 7 will show if they succeed or not.
Nice. I like that.
Thank you.
And what's really neat about the books is that there are this kind of gray area where you have this dynamic between like protagonists like the Nephilim and the antagonist relationship. I've always loved these kind of books where you have an assassin that's trained by a ruthless villain, and then the assassin wants to kill her trainer. That kind of relationship, that tension there, and the kind of history of the characters. So that's kind of neat. It is interesting taking the idea of a protagonist and making this anti-hero in the books.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different here. It's not that the assassin is gonna try to kill her mentor. It's a little bit different. So that's what people think will happen, but it goes in a different direction from there. But I know what you mean, and yeah, that's the kind of stories I also like. I like the morally gray characters and so on. So
yeah, or you don't know, exactly how far are they going to push that relationship, and yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what my killer series is like. I have my protagonists are also criminals, and they live in that world of they live in a criminal world, so they have to be somewhat bad guys, but they're good to each other. They build that bond of trust and love with each other, but yet from the outside world, they're horrible people.
Mhm.
And so,
Yes.
but you see that because of the world they live in, they're horrible people. But inside that world to each other, you find out, okay, these people have lots of redeeming quality. They're trustworthy, they're loyal, they're honest. They don't lie to each other about things. So they have that idea of you have all the good qualities. It's just that you are in this bad world that you must survive. And so you have that ambiguity of, is he really a good person or is he really a very bad person? If he was in another world, would he be a good person in that world? And so you have that type of ambiguity of, what makes a person a bad person? You know, you and I love those type of stories where you have that conflict of
Yeah.
characters.
Absolutely.
Those are the best stories, actually. Yeah, and it's always a matter of perspective, right? Are they really the good guys or the bad guys? And if you can't tell the difference, doesn't matter.
Yep.
And Mark, your character in
Kill-
Killswitch, she had that problem too, where she started off as a bad guy, but she was somewhat duped into doing some of the things she was doing. She knew she was doing
Yeah.
the wrong thing, but she thought she was doing them for the right reason. At least that's the feeling I picked up on it. And then now she realizes, oh no, this
Yeah.
was all wrong, and I
Absolutely.
refused.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Sabrina Underfoot, she's a technophile. All of her greatest inventions are stolen by political factions, and she's manipulated by them. The college steals her best inventions. And she is trying to redeem herself in this flooded world that she, basically was exacerbating all these ecological problems. And, a lot of that conflict is inside herself as she looks at how she was manipulated by power, and how she was an antagonist, but also she was a victim. She was a persecutor and a judger of everybody around her, but also a victim herself. I'll read a very brief excerpt to kind of exemplify this. She said, "I've been drawn to such power before, letting another person judge my self-worth because society found him worthy to judge, but not worthy of being judged in turn. The more a politician was accused of, the less any of the accusations stuck. They became diluted within the expectation that power deserves both obedience and leniency towards its defects, lest the followers are forced to admit they are better off directing themselves. Despite the obsessive individualism of the ego longs to be controlled, its infinity bound and gagged, and no one loves such bondage like the mayor. The main thing I needed to be protected from was my desire to be protected by a man like him." And so in things like that, that's drawn off of Eric Fromm, that a lot of people are afraid they're seduced by power, they're seduced by totalitarianism and authority because they're afraid of the responsibility that comes with being free. And so in punk literature, we have freedom as our core maxim, and oppose any kind of suppression of the voice of the individual. And that's the kind of unique perspective that books like Behind Blue Eyes and all the other books that we've had Into Neon on here, for instance. We've had Jim Keane on here. All the authors that we've featured over the years. That's the perspective that this punk gives. And so it is interesting when we look at freedom, power, and the way these things manipulate a good person to become an antagonist. But then also in Killswitch, it is the idea of redemption. If you can learn that your enemies are not enemies, that everybody that you meet is pretty much a gray area, then you can find common goals, common values that unite people within this shared struggle. And it's only then when you can work with people you don't like, whether it's the left working with the right politically or whatever, it's only then that you can make really good social change, when you have the buy-in of the mass.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Very deep, Mark. Very deep.
That's amazing.
But Mark, you're a sociologist by trade. Yes.
Correct.
So you can see a lot of that in his writing, and I can see a lot of the modern day world in what you write, and your exploration of the world we actually live in, which is amazing. That the way you write, that it comes through, and the world that you created was so different from the world we live in, but yet we can see our world in your world.
Mm. Isn't that it? How power remains the same. When we read Plato's Republic, he was asking the same questions about society we're asking now, and how power remains the same no matter if you're in space, no matter if it's 1,000 years from now, or if it's 5,000 years in the past. You see those same patterns play out, and you do hope that when we write dystopian fiction, we open people's eyes, and that they're able to see that a lot of the draw or desire that this power structure has, a lot of it is I won't get too political. I'll keep off my soapbox. I'll stop. If I go any farther, I won't stop. So
that has always been the role of a writer, is to be a social commentator, an observer, in putting down in words what he sees and experiences, so that people can learn, so that you can see the mistakes and the right things at the same time.
You're absolutely right, and that's why we have the books that are often banned: 1984, Fahrenheit, Brave New World, Animal Farm, that really pointed out and laid the groundwork for all of this. The best books were the social commentator ones.
Oh yes, and as writers, that's what we are as writers. We reflect the world that we live in. We reflect the different ideas that are out there.
And science fiction delves into the possibilities of the future, which can be bad or really bad, or promising.
Yeah, I think we also tried to bring that out to let people know, hey, if you keep going down this track, look what's going to happen, and because we've seen it happen before, as they say, history repeats itself, and life is cyclical. So we see what happened, and we realize it because we read the books, we see what happened before, we see how society have changed, what have come up, empires have risen and fallen, and we see why. And so, as writers, I think we're drawn to the idea of trying to help our world, our time, survive these things and make the right choices. I think that's at least I think that's my duty in writing. That's one of the things that I try to put into my writing. That when I want them to read a story and realize, good or bad, this person or that person, take note of what they're doing and be sure that you realize where they're coming from and where they're going.
I think from a Mark, and I'm just going to say one thing here, then I'll shut up. I promise, Mark. I think from a political aspect, and based on what yourself and I guess Anna write about, there's so many authors and creatives right now talking about the political landscape, what's going on, and things like that. And some of them, in my opinion, and this might sound negative, don't really have the right to aspect that, because it's not their branding per se. Why would a romance writer or a children's book writer be trying to emphasize a political aspect around whatever it is? But in your case, with your books, if anyone has a right to go political and make statements around these things, it's you, because of what you write about and the professionalism you're writing about. So your opinion is going to be valued in those landscapes just because of the sheer genre and class that you write within. So that's my point.
Thank you, Mickey. Yeah, I definitely appreciate that. And it is interesting that James, what you were saying about approaching writing with an intention. The intention, sure, it's to entertain, but you do hope that there's a deeper level of meaning that people get out of it. Some of us have, heroes that we can look up to every day, and some of us don't. Some of us have people who have shared the same tragedies and got through them, but some of us look to literature and strong characters for that. Absolutely.
Yes.
And of course, all this is wrapped up in a bunch of sexy new technology. It's so exciting. The AI, we are on the bridge of AI, and the fact that everybody's incorporating AI in their sci-fi stories now is just really, really cool. And there's a lot of tech, the tech advances and the kind of imagination that sci-fi authors have about technology it's amazing when you read things from like 1930s and they're imagining the world today with pretty good accuracy sometimes. Anna, in your books, you have a lot of technology and a lot of especially augmentations. Is there any favorite invention or augmentation that you have put together? And do you think that any of these things will actually exist in the future that are in your books?
Some of the things I think so, yeah. So of course I love my cyborgs. I'm a total cyborg fan, and I put a lot of thought into them. So for example, the cyborgs I developed a 60-40 rule for them. So they only can be 60% machine and not more, because the logic behind it is that at a certain point, the human brain will get detached from the body and develops severe dysfunctions, and basically like something similar to claustrophobia. So if you put a brain into a Robocop body or a Ghost in the Shell body, most of them will go crazy eventually. So that's why they have the 60-40 rule, which is like the perfect ratio for human-machine hybrids. So they still feel enough human to be functioning properly, but they have basically superpowers. So this is something I am actually pretty proud of what I came up with. I really like that idea, and also that they probably also have cooling systems. And thankful AI heroes aren't a thing yet.
I don't know who this is, but who this is great. Is glad that AI.
Then the person better not read my book. So yeah, they also have a cooling system, and because I always look at various kinds of cyborgs and stories, and I see them and look, they would overheat. Look at Cyberpunk 2077. I absolutely love it. I played it like 200 hours and whatnot, but if you look at the bodies, the people there have, first of all, they couldn't go into the water because they would be electrocuted. And secondly, they need cooling systems. Otherwise, they would overheat the parts in them, because the machine parts expel a lot of heat. So that's what I was thinking about, that they must have some sort of cooling system, especially when they have, like in my case, 60% of their bodies replaced. So that's the kind of stuff I think about all day, and that's how it goes. So
yeah,
I better stop, because I can also talk about it all day.
And that also makes me think, the cyborg being half of the mind, and then the human being half. Like even in our own mind, naturally, we have half of our brain which is very systematic, very rational, and then our limbic system is very emotional and volatile and capricious. And really, that dichotomy, exists in the mind naturally. And so the fact that a machine would tap into that, or an implant would tap into that, and kind of exacerbate that systematic side to become locked into binary code is just really interesting as to how people would think with that mindset, how different it would be from us, and who would basically, if the cyborg side of the brain decides to do one thing and the human side decides to do another, exactly who breaks the tie? Where is the tiebreaker at?
Yeah, so in my case, they have plenty of brain implants also, and they actually suppress the limbic system. They suppress emotions, and they don't dream and that kind of stuff, because they have enough humanity in them, so they can hunt humans, because AI fails at hunting humans because humans are too unpredictable. So that's why they have those cyborgs who still are enough human to be able to empathize with humans and better hunt and kill them. That's the entire point behind it. But they are under strict control, and feelings are suppressed, and so on and so on.
Sure.
In my story, Pegasus, which I wrote back in the 80s, the AI was in control of the ship. Think of 2001 Space Odyssey. And the AI was there because the people on the ship wouldn't know how to control everything and run everything on the ship. So you had this AI that would be able to step in and teach anybody any type of technology they needed to learn about running the ship. The thing was, these two people got trapped on the ship by themselves, and they were not the technical people. One person, the woman was a diplomat, and the guy was a technician, and he worked on a radio system. So they were supposed to be going off to colonize a new planet, and they got trapped on the ship, and they realized, well, if we want to take control of the ship, we have to learn how to run it. And so they get to the AI, which was called the teacher, naturally. And so they get into the teacher, and the teacher start teaching them all these different systems on the ship. But as the story goes, they have to teach the teacher what it's like to be human, because of the idea that in order to save humanity, it couldn't just be this robotic thing of, well, this is how you're going to survive. It had to be the emotional part of, why do we need to survive, and how do we actually go about saving the rest of humanity, not just surviving. And so you have the idea behind AI of, it can't just be a mechanical thing. It just can't be a system that does not recognize the value of life in the overall, in the abstract sense. In order, what we're working on now and what everybody keeps talking about is that AI is going to take over and kill us all. But as we start to train these things, and I'm a computer scientist by trade. I'm a programmer, and so by trade I write code and I write programs. And of course, we haven't got to the point where AI can actually write its own code. We're getting there. We're getting damn close. But when it does, you're still going to have to put guardrails in place that are hardwired so that the AI will be able to say, this is right and this is wrong. But right now, when people use the AI to write stuff, it doesn't know whether it's right or wrong. You give it the prompts and it will spit out stuff, and a lot of the stuff might be false, but it's pulling stuff in from the internet and from different places, and it can't decide what's true and what's not true. And so they're going to have to be guardrails put in to say, this is true, this is what we want, and this is how we have to live. And we do that with our own kids and with people nowadays. We put in the guardrail. Hey, you can't do that. Society will not function if you just go off and do whatever. Anarchy does not work. And we see that when societies break down, you become anarchist. You become well, I forget the word. But anyway, you get to that point, and that what breaks down societies, because without guardrails, things start to fall apart.
There still has to be a human element to the writing aspect in order to have pure success, because you can write a book completely doing AI. It's obviously been done multiple times, but when that individual who's written that book with AI is not using any other human aspects within that, and they go on an interview, it's going to come across in the interview that that's actually happened. And so you lose human aspects overall from that. I'm representing an author right now. She's writing a book every week this year without the use of AI. She's written 34 books, and she's done multiple interviews within it. And she's been able to encapsulate the human element within those interviews as well within that, and stating, I'm not using AI at all. And the books are just as good as they would be with the use of AI. In fact, they're better because of that human element aspect.
Sure. Absolutely. And, the guardrails that are necessary that you're talking about, James, these guardrails recently, because of the increased competition for AI in China, with DeepMind and all, everybody's like, deregulate, get rid of all the guardrails to develop the technology as quick as possible. And, we've seen this in the past, like with every technology. You see, like with vehicles, we'll have vehicles, and then 50 years later, Ralph Nader says maybe they need seatbelts.
Yes.
So we do, we do these things, and but with the values that you impart into AI, if we can program AI to have values, it does also beg the question: to what degree did nature or evolution or whatever program our values, or how are we different? So.
Right, and that's the thing that happens with, as time goes on, we learn from our past, and we learn, okay, you know what? We really don't want some guy out there who we put all our trust and faith in, and then he marches us off to some big war for God knows what reason, But every now and then we slide back into that idea of, oh no, life is too hard, like you say. People want to give up that control because they want the easy way. If this guy tells me what to do, he spoon feeds me all these ideas, you lose that sense of self, and you lose that sense of identity, and then you become the mass. And as the mass, you can do anything. You could be, because you're hidden in the group, So you get that mass philosophy going, and that's what most dictators and autocrats want. They want you to trust in me and just be this mass of people. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to take care of all of you guys. You're all going to be great. We're all going to be wonderful. And then at some point, you find yourself being led down the wrong path. And very rarely do it ever go out to be good. There are some people who are altruistic, and they actually want to lead to a better world. But because of the way human nature is and the way people are, as you start getting that power, you start pulling back from the good because you're trying to hold on to the power.
100%.
So I would like to say something about AI books. So we are facing a big problem here. So I don't know if if that's not a topic you want to talk about or not, but I think we authors have a huge problem here, and it's like an avalanche that is about to overrun us. So right now we already have so many AI written books or AI assisted books, and it's getting more every month. And we legitimate authors are basically getting drowned by that. And so there are so many. They can push out a book a week, or even if it's just a book a month. That's still a lot. And the problem is that AI evolves so quickly that a year ago, AI written books, I could spot them after reading one sentence. Yeah. Now the output is so good that you can't tell the difference to a human. So that brings the question for us, where's the point in a way, Where's the point for us to even sit down and do this job, which is a hard job, and every day, if people will read those books and say, I don't know what you want. I enjoyed it. It was good. And so we have a big problem here. I'm not saying that we should regulate or we need to ban it or whatever, because that's unrealistic anyway. But I think it's a problem we have to talk about, and that's that especially the smaller authors are getting drowned, and that a lot of us are getting their livelihood destroyed. I mean, I can see it. I can see it every day on my book sales, So that, for example, on KU, the margins are going down. That I'm getting less paid per read page because there are many more books out there, and so I notice it on my own paycheck that it's going downwards, and I'm still in the position where I have enough books and a big enough audience that I can sustain myself. But if you're an author who's just starting out, you basically have no chance nowadays, unless you're very, very lucky. And it's always the algorithm. We have an AI again. The algorithm will randomly pick up books and they will become hits, and nobody can really tell why. So if you're very lucky, you bring out your first book and it will be a hit, and that's it. But most of us are not that lucky, and they have to work very, very hard for their success. And the ones that are starting out, is getting more and more difficult for them. So I'm not saying that I have a solution for this problem. I'm just putting it out there that as great as it is, it has big downsides for us authors, for sure. Because writing a book takes a lot of time and a lot of work and a lot of passion. And I need 3 months to write a book. And yeah, AI will write it in a day. And then people will think that the book is good, and that's the most tragic thing about it. I know authors who publish AI books and they get very good reviews, and there are very good there are plenty of authors with names actually who are now writing with AI, and yeah, as long as they don't tell it, nobody will notice it, and they're making a lot of money. So some of the big names are writing with AI now, and nobody notices it.
Yeah.
So for us, it means why even put in the effort? Why even do that? So,
okay, let me just say this. I don't really think AI has changed the business of writing. It hasn't really changed. Like you say, it can put out books, quickly, and people will read them and like them. But that's always been the case. There have been millions of people putting out books a year or at a time, and the market is flooded with people. Some people write badly, and you read that book and you say, okay, I'm not going to read him. And then some people write really good, and they read your book and they say, ooh, I really like this. And so you build your audience, and you get that kind of feedback. And so it's the same. It hasn't really changed other than increase the volume of material out there. So yes, the volume has increased, but the way in which the business runs hasn't really changed. You're still fighting against a million other authors every time you release a book. There's still a million books a year being released, and you're
that's the problem. It's not just a million. So I mean, the market was already saturated. The market was already saturated a couple of years ago with the millions of books that are on Amazon, and now this is growing exponentially because everybody's bringing out their AI-written books. Not just people who just try it out and said, "Oh, I always wanted to write a book, so now I write one with AI, and now I'm an author." So there are those, but even worse are the pros that use it to have a bigger output, and so the entire market is being flooded more and more. And that's what I mean, that the small authors and the ones that start out are being drowned, because how are you supposed to find them in this gigantic amount of books that is there? And so yeah, like for Mark and me, we already have an audience. It's easier, but it's still, you have to grow your audience basically every month to sustain. And it's getting more and more difficult to reach the readers, for sure, even for those of us who have been in the business for a while. So what I'm saying, mostly, if those that are starting out now are excited to bring out their first book, it's tough. It's tougher than it ever was, in my opinion.
Sure.
I think it's how you have to ante up the marketability, though, overall, from that aspect. I mean, I represent lots of debut authors that are getting lots of coverage from that. And I'm stressing to them, don't be pumping out a book a month, because the quality is going to catch up. And most media, unless you're in the romance vein, they're not going to cover you if you're putting out a book a month, AI or not. They're just not going to cover you. So you're actually limiting yourself within the traditional media scope by doing that. To be honest, you're actually eliminating yourself from getting those wanted interviews. Just my opinion, but
well, yeah, I'm not bringing out a book a month, because I don't, even if I tried, I couldn't write that fast.
And you shouldn't, because quality is still going to be in the echelon of, and I'm talking from a media perspective, in an echelon from high-end media, they're only going to cover writers who are pumping out 1 or 2 books a year. they're not going to cover writers who are pumping out a book every single month. Unless they've already pre-written those books and they're now just circulating them out, i.e. Katie Robert, who does get that coverage. But from a debut author who's now pumping out a book a month in AI, trying to get an interview on Fox News, it will not happen. Guaranteed not.
Yeah, because people still want quality.
Exactly.
You know,
And if you're seen as pumping out a book every single
And the
month,
human
no,
touch.
you're not writing on quality. That's
Yeah.
their opinion.
Yeah, but absolutely. The problem is the readers don't care. The readers want those books that are being pumped out one a month. That's what they want. You look at the Amazon list and you will see books. You pick them up and you read 2 pages and think, oh my God, what is this? But then you look at it and it has like 10,000 reviews and the overall rating is 4.7 stars. And you think, okay, so apparently this is what people want. And unfortunately, there is only a small amount of people who really want quality, and the rest want just.
You also have to be wary of somebody who just published a book and got 10,000 reviews. There's a way to manipulate that to
100%.
say, you see the book got out last week and already this person got 10,000 reviews. You're kind of going to be thinking, yeah, that's probably not a real number.
Nope.
Probably not. No, especially if it's a big publisher, then it's different. But if it's an indie that pops up out of nowhere and has that many reviews, but on the other hand, Amazon will crack down on that. So they are very salty with that. So if you try to cheat with reviews or with page reads and so on, they will close down your account. So people who do that don't do themselves a favor.
They don't last in the industry. And that's one thing. You want to be in this industry and you want to last, you have to put in the work. And
100%.
And it's going to take a while. You know that yourself. It's going to take a while.
If you write cyberpunk, then you're crazy, because it's like it's a niche, and you basically can't make money in this niche. And that I'm sitting here and saying I'm doing this full time is basically like a miracle, because it's like it's such a small genre. So you have to be really crazy to want to do that, because the smart people go and write romance, and write and buy themselves a nice car and a nice house. And I write cyberpunk, and I'm like, okay, so the bills are coming. How am I gonna do that? This is just how it is. But if you have a passion for something and you really love it, like in my case, this is it, then I do it, and period. And what I do is I stepped into a genre where I discovered nobody knows what it is, nobody likes it, nobody wants to read it. So I decided, okay, so I need to make people want to read it somehow. So that was my mindset here, and it's a struggle. It's a struggle every day.
Well, I didn't know what cyberpunk was till I met Mark, and I read Mark's book, and I was like, "Wow, this is really good." And now I like cyberpunk. So once people are opened up to an idea, and once people are exposed to something, you find that they will, in most cases, accept it. And if it's not for them, it will never be for them. The same with romances,
Exactly. And on that note, Mark, I'm sorry I do have to go, but thank you for
Thank you, Vicky.
Anna, it was lovely
Appreciate
meeting you. James, lovely seeing you. Athena, lovely hearing from you. And Mark, honestly, congratulations on the book. Congratulations on the book. It's been phenomenal, and we'll keep driving it. And you guys have a good weekend.
You too.
Thanks, Mickey, for coming, and
thanks.
We'll talk soon.
Sounds good. Thanks. Bye, everybody.
So there is definitely a difference between pop literature and pop art and actual literature. And a lot of the stuff that comes to the top in the ratings and algorithms are, it's pop stuff. It's kind of like Duran Duran. It's cool. It's fun to listen to. It's not going to intellectually engage you the way that Kashmir will by Zeppelin. But it is kind of poppy. And then there are people who want literature and they want a unique voice, and they're going to have to, go beyond the AI to people who are writing this because we can't help but write. This is our catharsis. This is our life. This is our identity. This is how we express ourselves and actualize ourselves. It is how we get in touch with our emotions in the world. And, when you feel that kind of passion coming out of the page, it's a very different thing than just a, word frequency algorithm. The algorithm, I believe that they can trick people into, 10,000 positive reviews. Great. At the end of the day, I'd like to compare the actual impact that the book has on somebody's life at the end. And I'm a classic idealist in this way. Yeah.
None. I mean, it doesn't have any impact on the person that reads it. It's basically, so look, what you and I, we are doing, we are running like a small 5-star cuisine restaurant with recipes we come up with ourselves. And next to us stands McDonald's, and that's where the people go, and they will eat the cheeseburger every day. And you ask them, is it good? They say no, but whatever, right? So this is exactly what we have. We have those books. I mean, romance is of course very full of that, but we also have those in science fiction, in the books that are of really very, very low quality.
But when you want to take your date out on a date, you don't take it to McDonald's. You take it to your restaurant, right? So there's the difference between quality and quantity.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So, and that, that's a very good, a very good analogy to what you do, what Mark does, what I do, and what somebody who is just trying to make money. When people ask me, hey, I want to be a writer, I want to make money. How do I make money as a writer? You get yourself a printing press and you print your own money, okay? I will put you in jail, but you will make money.
Right.
Now, if you want to be a writer and an author, now that's a different story. Now you can talk to me about that. But if you just want to make money, you're better off just counterfeiting it and hopefully not going to jail. So there's the idea is, we're artists, Now, a lot of people don't recognize. They used to recognize authors as artists. We used to be put on a high pedestal of, wow, that guy's an artist. He wrote that. He wrote this book. But as you say, as the market gets more flooded, everybody starts thinking, oh, I can do that. And then, the real true artist becomes sought after, and then the rest just become, well, he wrote a book, that type of thing.
Wonderful. All right, lots of great ideas here and lots of interesting discussion. Let's talk free stuff. So Anna, you're welcome to put any of your book links in the chat or your website, annamasakat.com. If you sign up for the mailing list, you can get a free short story. I've read these short stories; they're absolutely wonderful. Get a taste of the larger work and the larger novels, and get kind of a previews of some of the concepts and ideas that you'll find in the upcoming releases, like BBE 6. And on my website, markeverglade.com, mailing list, get a free book of short stories if you sign up. In addition, we may have some giveaways that we do as well, but we'll probably run those contests post de facto.
Yes. If you want, Mark and Anna, post your websites in the comments. That way, everybody, because we got a couple of people on, and if you post it in the comment, then it will be there for people to look you up. And I'll post mine there too for Rocco.
It asks me to sign into
YouTube.
My
YouTube. Are you looking at it through YouTube?
Can you post it for me, Mark? That would be nice.
I can't. It's asking me to sign in, and I don't have an account.
All right.
You also.
All right. Very
our
slowly.
names. Yes.
Let me know what it is.
Our names. So Mark Everglade, no space.com.
Okay.
Annamasakat, no space.
Hold on, Mark. I don't type it. I told you I was a pro. I'm a coder. I don't type it.
You got it.
Mark Everglade.com. Okay.
Yep.
And Anna?
I'm trying to connect to YouTube. I decided it can't be so difficult. So let's do that. Just a second. Yes, here I am. Okay.
Okay. There you go.
No.
Well,
Okay.
that's your name.
No. Okay, let's give it another try. Okay, it's actually very, very easy.
Wonderful.
A comment failed to post, it says. God damn it. Well.
All right. I'll tell you what. Email me. I'll put it out for you. And mine is, let's put mine in there now.
Awesome.
Yeah, apparently it blocks posting links from people it doesn't know. Anyway, yeah, this is my first name dot my last name.com.
Okay, all right, I got you.
No, that's my. Oh God.
Anna.
That's my email address. It's just my first name and my last name together. .com. That's
no,
it. That's
okay.
No dots in there. That's,
no dots in there. Okay.
No. Okay.
Wonderful.
I'm a
Is that
science
right?
fiction author. I'm really good with technology.
Okay, is that right?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, there you go. So for everybody who's listening, everybody who's on, free stuff. How are we going to give away free stuff? I tell you what, everybody who connects to us, who have been on, connect to us, you'll get an ebook. Everybody got ebooks, right? So if you connect to us, say, hey, I want an ebook, then we'll send you an ebook.
They can follow the website, rockhillpublishing.com. Your contact information is on there, James. And they'll send you an email, James, etc., at rockhillpublishing.com. And yeah, we'll send them some ebooks. Absolutely. Sounds good.
Anna, you just give me the ebook or get it to Mark and he can send it out. Mark, of course, I got your stuff, so I'll send your stuff.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Well, I
have ebooks.
You got ebooks?
I have ebooks. I also have audiobooks. If someone wants an audiobook,
all right.
I can also give away those.
Well, you let us know what book you want to send and give us a copy. We'll send it for you. Anybody who asks for Anna's book, we'll make sure. Or you can just go to Anna. Her name is up there. Just go to her website and say that she was on the broadcast and you would like a ebook, audio book, papyrus, whatever.
So I just had an audiobook release of my new cyberpunk detective story. I have a cyberpunk detective series that is a spin-off of Behind Blue Eyes, and it's called Neon Dreams. And we were talking about AI. So those detectives have a particularly bizarre murder case to solve because a guy has been murdered by his sex bot harem, and in a very, very brutal way. And the problem is that that it is in this world, everybody assumes AI can't murder someone on purpose. So now that's the case. Did the robots murder the guy on purpose? Were they hacked, or is something completely different at play here? And that's the story. So it's like a detective story, cyberpunk. And I just released the audiobook, and the title is Neon Dreams. So there are two books. First is Neon Nights, second is Neon Dreams, and the audiobook just came out. If someone wants one and maybe give me a review in return, and they can contact James, and James can just forward me the email or whatever, right? Let's do it like that.
Awesome. Neon Nights, Neon Dreams. Reminds me of when we had Austin Dragon on, and he was talking about his cyberpunk detective series. Love cyberpunk detective stuff. Love cross genre, and cyberpunk's so noir anyway that it really goes along with that kind of theme.
Well, yeah, men are usually quite violent. It's like there's a lot of gore and blood and sex in there. So that's what you get in my book. So they're definitely not for the people who
paint of heart.
Paint of heart was what I was thinking. Yes, that was the phrase. Awesome. Well, any closing remarks or comments?
Anna, go ahead. You start off.
Well, Mark, congratulations to your book release. Thank you for having me on the show. It was lovely to join you, and I wish you all the best with the book. I hope it will sell great. We'll get great reviews, and keep on writing, because that's what we have to do, right? No matter what.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for joining us, Anna. And thank you, James and Athena, Mickey, everyone who's been involved in the process along the way. And yeah, definitely appreciate it.
Mark, I got a question for you.
Yes.
This is the third book in the series. Are we getting a fourth?
You know, I think I'm going to take a hiatus to kind of rebuild and restructure my life and my family for a while. But in a couple years, who knows? Maybe we'll be here in a couple years, James.
Will we go back to Gleason 581G, or are we going to find us on another planet, another world?
You know, I found myself in my personal life in another world, and so I think anything I write from here on would also have to be in another world.
In another world, okay.
In another world, but I'll see you in another world, James.
Oh, thank you. I've been looking forward to it. Mark, congratulations. Yeah. I mean, these are wonderful stories, wonderful books.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we've been about an hour now, and I'm sure people would like to go have dinner. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Take care.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Yep. Until next time. Bye now.
Bye.